coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. My name is David Hensley. I am the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined today, as always, by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Hello.
And Chris Wilson Barnes.
Hi, Dave. Christopher Nolan owes me $4.27.
But
$3.99.
But before we get to that, as Chris has already alluded, we are talking about the next film in our Christopher Nolan filmography discussion, The Prestige. But first, I want to say that I feel very bad because Gina Belmont, co-host of This Is a Takeover, one of our sister shows, really wanted to be on this episode when I told her that this is what we were discussing next. But my last week has been so busy and crazy that I forgot to tell her we were doing this until last night.
I mean, he forgot to tell me until last night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been a hard week, y'all. So yeah, Gina, I'm very sorry. But we are going to be discussing the 2006 Christopher Nolan film, The Prestige, and we have some very conflicting opinions about this movie.
Once again, we all fall upon different parts of the spectrum.
Yeah. As we always say, this movie is 15 years old at this point. It came out in 2006. We are not going to worry about spoilers. If you haven't seen it, this is your chance to pause the podcast, go out and watch it. If it's been a while since you've seen it, maybe you want to refresh yourself on it, and then come back and listen to the episode, because we're going to talk about the plot of this film very frankly, starting with the fact that a lot of my discussion topics are really just things that I wrote, observations I wrote down for us to discuss. The first one being, no one in this movie knows CPR.
CPR, which I looked it up after you put that topic out there. It became more in the more modern age. It was around 1860, 1890. So by this time, CPR would have been a more common thing.
Yeah, so CPR was codified in 1960, but mouth-to-mouth resuscitation for drowning victims, I looked this up right before we started, mouth-to-mouth for drowning victims was invented in 1740.
So really, they shouldn't have looked on helplessly as she laid on the ground.
Yeah, the entire plot of the film is predicated on Angier, one of the two magicians, played by Hugh Jackman. His wife is killed in a tragic magic accident.
Tragic magic.
Tragic magic accident, which is just fun to say.
Magical misery tour.
She is accidentally killed. Not even really killed, but she is the trick is set up incorrectly by Christian Bale's character.
Who his actions here kick off the entirety of this movie.
His actions, her going along with them, and also no one knowing mouth to mouth.
Yeah, well, it's largely okay. We'll get it. I'm not going to get into it too yet.
Yeah, don't bury the lead quite yet. But yeah, realistically, somebody there should have been like, give her mouth to mouth. Nope.
No,
it would have been a very short movie,
also,
I suppose.
You left breaking open the case to the oldest man on the stage in the wings.
Right? Yeah, you give Michael Caine's character Cutter the axe so that he can free her.
Did not live up to his name.
No, he did not. But also, like, for the most part, like, the performances are really good. I have problems with the plot of the film, but they just left a golden opportunity sitting on the table. What could have been more dramatic than Angier trying to resuscitate his poor dead wife and doing the classic, come on, wake up, while giving her mouth-to-mouth and chest compressions. Instead, he just stares at her and cries. I'm just saying they left an opportunity on the table.
But
there.
the thing is, you're right, like a pussy. Yeah.
Maybe he didn't know CPR or the current state of CPR at the time. So it's like, and he was afraid that because she was kind of small, so he might have broke her chest.
I'm just going to say
CPR compressions in the mouth to mouth, he might have blew too much air into her chest cavity and blew it up. So maybe he was afraid.
Where did you get your doctorate?
I'm just going to say, first of all, impressive lung control, Stan. Second of all, I'm just going to say, with magicians performing as an act that is reliant on someone being trapped in a water tank, I'd learn.
Has it never come up before then? Like, oh shit, what if somebody starts drowning in there? Well, I don't know. We'll stare at him.
Borden
But
seems
there's
like
the whole lock thing, so it's like, you know.
Borden seemed like the guy who does enough crazy prep that he would want to know.
All right.
He would at least know, especially if he's going to do something like what he did.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she agreed to, if it was the bad knot or not, it doesn't matter. She agreed to experimenting with that, and they tested and it worked fine beforehand. So it's like,
well, no, they had never tested it prior to that performance that night.
Had they not?
I want to.
No.
I need to jump in because
she
what you're
told him.
talking
All right, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this.
I'm sorry.
She told him to do it.
Now they discussed it backstage, and she said it's feasible, but Cutter jumps in and says it's not a wet knot. It could fail, or it could get too tight. When they're on the stage, what you're saying this agreement moment is essentially he's tied the knot, and they nod to each other. They're essentially saying that the knot is tied. Yes, the knot is tied.
No, because he starts tying the same knot that he always does, and he looks at her, and she looks at him, and that's when she gives him the little nod.
Okay, fair.
He unties the knot that he had tied and does the one that they were talking about backstage.
Okay, fine. Everyone involved in this is stupid. Because
yes, I agree.
Let me tell you,
Except Olivia.
But Alfred Borden is the most stupid because, and this is what ran through my head the whole time, this is an entire team thing. They are all involved in this trick and making it work. He's one part of it, and he has to do his goddamn part to make sure it works. Him suddenly deciding that his thing is better, even if she went along with it, fucks up the whole chain of things. And he decided on his own that he was right. It doesn't matter that she had agreed. They're all part of this. He fucked up the whole thing.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I am saying that equal blame is due to the four men standing around in a circle, none of whom knew mouth to mouth,
Also
as you
correct.
pointed out, for a water trick.
Yes, you're right.
Again,
there too.
I say, how had it never come up before? Oh, shit. Maybe one of us should learn mouth to mouth.
So the entire movie is predicated on everyone being stupid and obsessed.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's where I fell after watching this movie.
Well,
obsession does cause a lot of stupidity, so.
it does. But as we have pointed out, it would have been like a 20-minute movie had anyone known CPR, and there's a lot of poor decision-making in this film.
And she may have been sick anyway.
Oh, come! Oh, don't start. No.
You know,
Are you sick?
the fact that she may have had pre-existing conditions that led to her,
God.
Fully not being able to survive the trick.
No, I'm going to shut that down right now.
Is that somebody did not, because she passed out, I think, in the tank before.
Right.
Before, so it's like she would have been fine in the. If she would have been able to not panic and get her, when she lost control of getting her knot off, which she probably knew how to do, but then something happened and something didn't actually go the way she wanted. She passed out. This happens all the time in magic,
right? But
people
usually
die in their tanks all the time. That was the whole thing.
We're not glossing over.
Okay, all right.
That was talked about in the movie about how people die in the water tanks so much.
I
that's
really
why it's considered such one of the main tricks.
I really thought you were going to propose the notion that she was already sick and therefore she wanted to die during the trick.
Don't give him an out.
Yeah. No.
I'm just saying.
You're not getting you're not getting in a pre-existing condition that they did not foreshadow at all. No.
Or establish whatsoever.
No.
So we're going to move on.
They were professionals. They had worked together before. They've been working together. It's like.
Which is why when you go against the established plan, things go wrong.
Yes, and they realized, but it was a calculated risk, and on both their parts.
And boy, are they bad at math.
But the thing is, he was willing. Borden was willing to not to go along with the the established.
Sure, it wasn't his wife.
But the thing is, she gave him permission.
She did. They were all stupid. Everyone involved in this decision-making process.
A lot of stupidity involved, but I'm not sure if I'm going to hang my hat on him being the only instigator.
He took the initiative to start fucking this up.
They're both at fault. If she had looked at him and shook her head like, no, I don't want to try it.
Because she was the one that okayed it with, and she's like, I can do it, and I want to do it.
She was also dumb because she also allowed the decision to happen on stage and not discuss it with anyone else.
I agree with that. Yes.
No, she had not cleared it with Angier because remember, he spends the rest of the movie wondering which knot Borden tied.
Right, but what I'm saying is that she had previously said, we can do this. It's not like something, that I'm afraid to try.
Well, of course, because that's ego playing in there saying, of course I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Chris has a point here in that Cutter told them flat out, don't tie this knot. And then the two of them went behind his back and decided that they were going to try it anyway, and it got her killed. A lot of stupid decision making, and we're going to move into the next round of stupid decisions that characters made in this movie, which is that no one has peripheral vision.
No.
And that's not exactly a stupid decision that they make. It's just
bad eyesight.
It's just a complete lack.
It's just okay.
Maybe if there were glasses for everybody. People had.
I'm
their
not
own
Googling
contact.
when were glasses.
No, they were prevalent during
Ben
this.
Franklin, remember?
But
so it's like,
can I just say,
glasses and contact lenses may have been helpful in their situations.
Can I just say I'm not gonna make this a Nolan bashing thing, but this seems to be a problem with his and his brother's writing, where for things like this to work, they don't have peripheral vision.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of, this is a very prevalent thing in a lot of people's early works is, and it's not just the Nolans, it's every early writer. I feel you have to move the plot along, and instead of finding a coherent way of doing that, you just contrive a coincidence.
Or as TV Tropes calls it, the idiot ball. Someone has to hold the idiot ball.
Right.
And everyone got their own in this movie.
Multiple times.
Having not read the original source material,
I haven't either.
Do we blame it solely on Jonathan Nolan, or is he adapting straight from the book that it was based on?
From
what did the original author? How did they?
From what I understand, the book and the movie are very different.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I'm talking about specifically is the amount of times the plot is moved along just because of the fact that someone did not notice something that was literally in their face. It starts with Borden's magic show, where, spoiler alert, his twin brother is the person picking the volunteer for the bullet catch.
I got to talk about that later, but go ahead.
Fallon is in charge of picking the person, the volunteer for the bullet catch trick, and he picks Angier, who has only grown a scraggly beard. That's it. He should have immediately realized.
I don't even think he grew that because based on Borden's disguises, I think they were just using.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Staged beards and makeup.
Yeah, so he was wearing a beard. But Alfred Borden noticed as soon as he saw him, he realized, oh shit, that's Angier, and he's holding a loaded gun.
As soon as he looks up, he's like, oh yeah, that's him.
And then later, during Angier's show, Olivia, his new assistant, played by Scarlett Johansson, picks a volunteer out of the audience, and also Borden, Christian Bale's character. You ought to know, you're working for a man, you should know who his arch nemesis is. If I ever hire an assistant, I'm going to make sure that assistant knows who my arch nemesis is and not to let him volunteer for something I'm doing.
In their defense,
they're dumb.
People appear not to be able to pick, Bruce Wayne and Batman as the same person.
I think the mask helps.
But the thing is, after all this time, it's like of them not being in the same room together. It's like.
But they
should have figured it out.
They spent enough time together. Like, if I saw Dave coming towards me in a fake beard, I'd spot it.
Yes, Borden and Angiers spent time together, but I don't think Borden's brother spent much time. So the idea that he may have...
They were constantly switching places, though. Alfred and quote-unquote Fallon, like him and his twin brother, spent time switching places as Fallon.
And were always near each other.
Yeah. So... The brother playing Fallon at that show 100% should have been able to pick out Angier. And Angier and Olivia should have 100% been able to pick out Borden before he was allowed to trip.
I agree with the Olivia picking out Borden, but because did not the brother, Borden's brother, come in until after?
He was there the entire time.
He was there the entire time.
Yeah, it's like he says at the end, they were always switching places. Sometimes one of them was Alfred, and sometimes one of them was Fallon.
Even during the group, the original team up.
Yeah. They were switching days. Okay. They were off and on. Yeah.
Because I thought he came in later.
That's why when Borden's at the funeral, he says he honestly doesn't know which knot he used because
that's
Dave and I discussed it. It's like one of the brothers, whichever brother tied it, could have misremembered, or they said they could have tied it.
Or they just went and they lied to Alfred and said, no, I totally tied the right knot. Therefore,
and
one
Alfred
of them
might have doubted.
Yeah, one of them has no idea which one the other tied. But the most egregious example of what I'm talking about here is getting towards the climax when Angier invites people on stage to look at his Tesla machine, and Borden just fucking gets up and goes up there. He walks right by Angier, walks up and into the Tesla machine, is touching things, and then fucks off to go backstage. Angier never notices.
In that case, he knew,
because isn't that
he wanted
him
Borden to get caught.
That's why he set up the shows.
That's the only one
town.
where it's like, yes, he's turning a blind eye because he knew Borden couldn't help himself.
Because that's why they set up the shows across from Borden's shows, right?
Well, at that point, Borden's show was closed.
Yeah.
But they purposely opened up across the street from where he was doing his shows, and because he knew that would draw him in, right?
I think you're confusing it. And he set it up, I think, was it maybe in the first theater?
There was a point in the movie you're thinking of earlier where Borden specifically chose the Pantages Theater across the street as a way of fucking with Angier. But by the end of the movie, Angier had bought a completely different, like, run-down old theater.
But he knew that would bring him in, though.
Yeah. He knew that he wouldn't be able to resist. Okay. All right. I'll take the drawing him into a trap explanation. All right. So, as we've kind of discussed already, the opening of this movie involves the two of them just fucking with each other a lot. Like, first Angier shows up to Borden's show and loads a real bullet into a gun and blows off Borden's fingers.
Which is kind of fun if you think about it.
No, that's not fun.
No, I mean the idea that they kept one-upping each other.
So that's what I'm getting to, is like that is followed up by Borden then goes to Angier's show and springs a trap too early that kills the bird that's inside the cage.
And breaks also the fingers of a lady on stage.
Yeah, it snaps the lady volunteer's fingers. And after that really kicks off the, like, escalating lengths that the two of them go to fuck with each other. But there was a point where after the birdcage trick, I was like, you know what? If this movie was just 90 more minutes of them going to each other's shows and fucking up each other's tricks, I would be here for it.
See, that's what I told you earlier today was, I've realized one of my major problems with the movie is the tone. They keep it deadly serious the whole way through. This escalated into, this should have veered into black comedy territory.
Yeah. And
it could have easily, with just a few tweaks, with nearly the same ending.
Yeah, I mean, there
I agree with that. Yeah. I do.
I know you disagreed with. I didn't find there to be any comedy in this whatsoever.
There were some funny bits.
There were, like him, tying the shackles to the prison guard. Okay, that was kind of funny, but like all of Nolan's other movies have some element of humor to them. Even Memento, as bleak as the story of Memento is, at least we've got things like, that's funny, I don't feel drunk.
Yeah.
And, okay, I'm chasing this guy. Oh no, he's chasing me.
Yeah.
Like even the Batman films have a lot of humor in them. This is just so dark and pessimistic throughout, to the point where even Angier's double is like, if you knew what I knew of the world, you'd stay drunk all the time too. Like, it's just such a bleak outlook.
No.
Well, the most part was Sarah
Borden's wife.
Borden's wife.
What, hanging herself at the end?
Well, no. Starting out, their meat is a really nice meat, cute. I mean, they have a nice sense of humor and nice sense of loving each other and stuff. Then we go back into who's loving who at the moment, but the idea that their relationship was genuinely awesome at the beginning, and then totally corroded by the end. But,
yeah,
but
because
still,
she could tell when the twin she fell in love with was actually around her.
Right.
And I feel like the movie really could have done a better job of letting the audience in, even after the fact.
Yeah.
Of, like, once you know the secret, if you go back and look, you can tell which brother was which.
Right.
Because it isn't the only things that we were able to concretely agree on was that the Borden twin that died in prison, that got hanged, was the one that loved Olivia.
Yes.
And the one that killed Angier at the end was the one that loved Sarah.
Yes.
And that's it. And there are hints a little bit like...
And you can tell when Fallon was the one that loved Sarah because he was more affectionate towards his daughter.
Yes. I feel like the movie really could have done a better job cluing the audience in after the fact of who was who. And it might have really helped to... get the audience on Borden's side more, especially once Angier really goes off the deep end. Mm-hmm. But so, like I said, this was released in 2006, a year after Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. At this point, Hugh Jackman was mostly known for the X-Men films. When watching this now, 15 years later, did you guys still get hung up on the fact that this was Wolverine versus Batman?
No.
Really?
No, I didn't. It didn't bother me.
Because I remember when I watched this in 2006, I was like, okay, like the two of them were so synonymous with those roles then that I was just hung up on Batman versus Wolverine in an act off for 2 hours.
Maybe if I'd seen it back then, possibly, but it didn't really bother me so much.
Yeah, I've seen enough of Jackman's more musical theater stuff now to where there was that definite separation between his, bulky Wolverine stuff and his Greatest Showman type stuff, or his Nine or whatever. It's like
Les
Mis stuff. So there was definitely a clear cut, but there was a lot of Batman still left in. I mean, he just came off of it, but there was still a lot of Batman left in Christian Bale, especially I don't know, is he the good brother? Whichever, the bad brother,
right?
Of the Gorman.
Borden's. I wouldn't go so far to call one good and one bad. I would just say that one was more, at least emotionally closed off and more driven.
Yeah, right.
Because at the end, the one I'm pretty sure is the one that wasn't in love with Sarah. He's the one who ends up under the stage watching the duplicate die. He's at the end.
That was the one that loved Olivia.
Right. He's the one he's watching the duplicate die, and he goes, "Hey, he's drowning! Help!"
Yeah. So it falls into the evil has standards trope. Yeah, I agree.
But this gives me a good moment to talk about this. So the reveal is that we've basically trampled all over is at the end. I'm assuming what I would call just one of the Alfreds. Mm-hmm. Alfred Borden reveals that they were twins, and they decided to, in order to perfect their craft at magic, they decided at some point long ago to just live life as one person. Mm-hmm. They would swap in and swap out, but they would live a singular life as Alfred Borden and gaslight every single person in their life like an asshole.
Yeah. One of them was always Alfred. The other was always Fallon. But not always. One of them, at any given point, one of them was Alfred and one was Fallon.
Right. And you couldn't tell who was who, and it created obvious havoc for everyone in their life who got close to them. Mm-hmm. And it's just...
What an asshole. Yeah.
Yes. It's just, I don't care how, it relates back to my feelings about method acting.
Yes, exactly. I hate method acting. I think I've made it clear on this podcast before, and I agree with you. Yeah.
Which is funny because Christian Bale is kind of a method actor, but really, he's a more responsible one where it's like, okay, I'm going to undertake this very, very intense diet to basically be the proper body shape I should be.
Yeah, it was nice to see Christian Bale looking like a normal human being in this movie, not inhumanly thin or overweight or super buff. Like, right. I wonder what his thought process was like. You mean I don't have to diet or binge eat or hit the gym for this movie?
All I needed was prosthetic chopped off fingers.
Yeah. Stan and I were joking about this morning. Michael Caine got off easy. He's the only person in the movie who gets to use his actual real life dialect.
Oh man, everyone! I think that might have been what drew a lot of people to the movie. It was just like, oh, I get to do an accent too. All right,
right. Like even Christian Bale is British, but he had to do the lower class Cockney accent. Hugh Jackman is Australian.
That might be his. Original.
No, I've heard Christian Bale talk in real life. Yeah, he's just standard RP British.
Because I know early on with Sid and Nancy's, the Joe Orton story movie, he's got that. He's got that Cockney draw. So I'm not sure exactly where he's from, but.
Well, Hugh Jackman is Australian, and he had to put on both an American accent for most of the movie and then his upper-class British accent at the end, dialect, excuse me.
Ah, yes.
And then, of course, Scarlett Johansson putting on her best British dialect.
And then David Bowie doing whatever he thought was Nikola Tesla's accent. Nikola Tesla is Serbian. I think he got close to Germanic.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to question that.
He tried. There was an effort.
It was really close.
There was an attempt.
It was close.
An attempt was made.
And we got to say, this Scarlett Johansson's really good in this movie. Let's not forget to say that. She is really good, and this is early Scarlett, so it's like she was really,
She's
really,
also
really,
the
really
catalyst for realizing you lose all sympathy for Angier, too. Because up until that point, I was like firmly on his side.
Olivia is the smartest character in the movie. And if at either point, either Angier or Borden had just listened to Olivia, again, it's the same thing as if anybody in the movie knew CPR mouth to mouth. The movie just would have been over. If she'd have been like, Angier, you're taking this too far. You're being an asshole. Oh my God, you're right. Don't go spy on him. Movie over.
It really was the fact that like he got involved with Olivia once she was part of Angier's act. And instead of, sorry, he had by that point, unfortunately, transferred all of the grief over his wife into pure revenge and obsession, to the point where he's just like, this person I'm falling for, I'll use her, and she rightly points it out. You're going to use me as a prop.
Yeah. I will give the story credit because up until that point in the movie, it is very clearly Angier is the protagonist. He is the sympathetic one. Borden is his antagonist. He is the unsympathetic character. But the moment that Angier says, I don't care about my wife, I care about the trick.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. He now, this is a good segue, thank you, into what is our next discussion topic, the gray versus gray morality of the film. There is no real protagonist. And realistically, there's no antagonist either. It's just two guys gradually becoming more and more assholes to each other.
So we were talking about this earlier, and it's like, if there is a protagonist that has a growth arc,
it's Cutter.
It's Cutter. It's Michael Caine's character, and it starts off with his voiceover and it ends with his voiceover, and so him telling the story of what happened between these, because they're fairly, really, really, really great magicians for both of them, and so they both have potential to be, great artists in their field.
If Angier had Borden's practicality, and Borden had Angier's showmanship,
yes.
That's the thing. That's the at least professionally, that's the conflict. Is Angier is a pretty good magician, but he's a great showman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Borden is a great magician,
but a poor showman.
He's not good at attracting people until Olivia shows up and says, you should jazz us up a little bit.
I can help you with that.
Again, if he had just listened to Olivia and been like, you know what, I'm going to put more showmanship into my performances. Boom, movie over. And then he was clearly the better of the two of them.
And then, if they had also taken a few minutes and been like, okay, we reveal this to Olivia. You love Olivia. She, you guys are getting into it. You pretend to be You stay Fallon. I stay Borden. You two hook up, we're all happy.
Yeah, everything works out except for Angier, whose wife is dead, and drove the woman he loved into the arms of another. Yeah.
But he got to meet Tesla, so.
I mean, yeah, there's that. And he got to fucking clone himself.
Yeah, okay.
And
see, that's another example of Angier's fall, is when he uses the machine and realizes it's a duplicator, and he sees the other him for the first time. You realize he's past a point of no return because his first instinct is to grab the gun, and as his duplicate is protesting and trying to tell him, "Wait, I'm also you," blam, shoots him dead.
Yeah, I mean,
and then proceeds to kill every duplicate, and when he does the trick.
I mean, we're supposed to watch the gradual downfall of both of these men as they pretty much occur hand in hand to each other. But by the end of the movie, Borden has accidentally, without malice, killed one person. Angier has murdered an untold number of his
himself.
own clones.
Yes.
And he even says, "I don't know. I never knew on which night if I was going to be the one in the tank or the one on the."
And see, I take issue with this because the movie presents this moral quandary of his as like it's supposed to be highfalutin. Like you said, I never know whether I'm the one in the tank or the one in the balcony.
Right.
Yeah, you do. The original Borden died. I'm sorry, not Borden. The original Angier died the first time they performed that trick in front of an audience.
Right.
Because he is always the one falling through the trap door. The one on the balcony is the clone.
Right.
That clone dies the next night when he is cloned again.
Right.
So, like, this moral quandary that he's having of which one am I? You're the clone, bro.
And at that point, and technically the way it clones him doesn't really matter because it splits him into it makes another version of him who has all memories and everything up to that moment.
Yeah.
So essentially, I mean, why? I mean, you're killing yourself, basically.
Yeah, and even Borden, when the big reveal at the end comes out that Angier is Lord Caldwell. Even Angier, I'm sorry, God, I keep getting these two fucking... Borden, yeah. Even Borden is like, whoa, too fucking far. You framed me for murder, and you're trying to take away my child. You've gone too far. And
I mean,
yet,
because in Angier's mind, he thinks he's doing the noble thing. He's like, I'm getting my revenge, but don't worry, I'm going to take care of your daughter. She'll be fine. It's like, that's how he's squaring it away in his head.
Yeah, no, it's still a dick move, bro.
Yeah.
When actually, am I wrong? Because that's the way I saw it. But Cutter was doing the most of the caring for the daughter, right?
Fallon. Up until she's taken away. Fallon.
Yeah, but when she gets to Angier's place, is because Cutter's not with Angier as Caldwell yet.
He
comes to Caldwell.
Well, no, he greets her, but there's a nanny. There's a nanny there who takes her.
There's a whole period of time when Cutter is not around Angier's, and he finally discovers Angier's as Caldwell. And
it's when he goes to the house. He only interacts with Angier as Caldwell very briefly.
But then
before he decides to turn on him,
and then he says, "I'm going to take care of the daughter, and we're going to get at least your uncle available to you." Well,
if the implication is that the actor. Oh my God, we could go down this rabbit hole. I think the implication is supposed to be that the Alfred Borden who shows up at the end, the one who survives, is supposed to be Jess's father.
Yes.
Because that's the version that was in love with Sarah.
Yes.
I think we can put a pin in that one.
No, I know that. That one I know for sure.
And there's a great nod.
Because that would be even more downer ending.
This was one of my favorite moments of the movie, and it's very subtle, and it's just before the major reveal. But when after whichever Borden is taken off to get hung, and Fallon is coming back to the theater, and Cutter is leaving the theater after officially saying bye to Angier's, and they meet in the street. And they do a nice nod to each other. That was one of my favorite moments, and the idea that, he set this up.
Yeah.
It's like you...
Well, but even Cutter has had enough of Angier's bullshit by the end of the movie. again, like that's one of my biggest problems is the film could have done a much better job of telling us which one we are supposed to sympathize with. And I know that Christopher Nolan telling the audience anything is not who he is as a filmmaker, but as still some work could have been done. If you want the audience to sympathize with Angier, some more groundwork needs to be laid. If you want them to sympathize with Borden, more groundwork needs to be laid.
At the very least, he needed to reveal what was going on to at least some of the close people in his life.
Yeah. But this whole gray and gray morality issue of it, I understand completely that is what he was going for. And to that extent, Nolan succeeded. It doesn't, in my opinion, make good storytelling.
No.
If you can't care about the two main characters, protagonist or antagonist, if you can't care about them, then what is there to get involved with in the story?
I don't know.
Where's the emotional connection?
Because at the end, here's something that I think should have happened at the end as Angier's bleeding out for the longest time. And they're having, we got to that part and I looked like, there's still 12 minutes of this movie. Mm-hmm. And they have like a 5-minute conversation about, the tricks. And they should have called each other out so hard instead of going, so it was a duplicator. Oh, so you were twins. It's like, no, you should have been like, you were twins? And you never told anybody?
You have a cloning machine?
Yeah.
What the actual fuck? You mean I can make... Oh, my God. Borden could have just made himself another twin.
Yes.
What if that had been the end of the movie? He clones himself and he's like, hey, I have my brother back.
That wouldn't have worked, but it would have... it's like, it's the craziest fucking thing is it's like, they just go, yes, your methods are also unique. Fuck you.
I really didn't have as many issues with the suspensions of disbelief as y'all did. I really had a good time with the stuff. I love the magic. I did love the tomfuckery, and so it's just
I could suspend my disbelief as the tone. I had a severe problem.
There was tone issues, but I think I had more connections with like the Cutters and the Olivias and the Sarahs and such.
Everybody other than the main characters.
And I think that's where maybe I was supposed to be driven to, and because these two guys' obsessions, because it's not even Fallon Alfred's obsession. He's just part of Alfred's obsession, Yes. So it's like the idea that he's finally able to be free of that as well. That's who I hooked onto at the end. So it's like if I was to identify with the main characters, then it was him. He was my sympathetic character. Was that Fallon was always trapped in a situation that he was going to struggle to get out of for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. He was obviously the meeker of the twins, the less assertive of the twins, but also the most loving, the less aggressive of the twins, and the more loving.
He's the one who says, "Leave him alone.
Leave him alone."
Yeah, we need to let this go.
But other Alfred is like, I can't.
Yeah.
And because of his personality, he's going to be the dominant. And so it's like, but up until then, you are very much geared to like this obsession these guys are having is ruining everybody in their vicinity.
Yeah, to the point where twice in the movie, the people closest to them, Cutter to Angier and Olivia to Alfred, both literally tell them, "No, I'm out. Goodbye."
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes, and then Sarah kills herself, right? And
that was her way of saying, "No, I'm out. Goodbye."
Even though we've had spent a lot of the movie, the beginning of the movie, falling for her, and becoming, engrossed in their relationship. Even when
Rebecca Hall is wonderful.
And Rebecca Hall, the female cast is great. I mean, even the girl who plays the daughter is they are all great,
and Piper Perabo for all the two scenes that she's in.
Piper Perabo is wonderful, but it's just amazing how much you are, or at least I was, geared to finding your sympathies amongst the supporting cast. And even with Cutter, it's because Cutter was the voice of reason all the way through, and he was saying it all the time. And it's like nobody listened to him, and he's the old guy. You should be listening to him, And it's like, and he's done the tricks.
I feel like that's your subtle way of telling us we should be listening to you.
It's not happening.
No. What I'm saying is that he's done the tricks. He's been at the tricks. He's been there even before them.
Right.
Like he's
but if
been
that's
around.
If that's going to be
created, he's the engineer. He creates the mechanics of the tricks.
But Sam, they're also younger and hungrier, so they're looking for better ways to do them.
And he says that Cutter says that in the voiceovers and stuff. It's like, this is gonna take them to bad places, but let's see where the story goes.
Yeah,
that's how innovation works. Look at Tesla.
Exactly.
And in order for that to have worked, Cutter or Olivia or Sarah, one of them should have been the protagonist, with Borden and Angier as the people in their lives that are slowly ruining it. And because then we have a protagonist that we are sympathetic towards and we want to succeed. We don't ever at any point. The main crux of a story should be wanting to see the main characters succeed at whatever their goal is. At no point did I ever want to see either Angier or Borden succeed.
Even if they're not the best person, I mean, because going back to Memento, it's like you find out, the main character there,
Lenny does some bad shit.
Yeah, he does. But at the same time, there's enough to him where he's like, I want to see him succeed. I want to see him make his goal. Yeah. Even though you find out, it's kind of impossible. Yeah. But jumping to here, it's like, at least for me, Borden was almost entirely unsympathetic from the start, and then almost by halfway into the movie, Angier loses his my feelings of sympathy, and then so what am I left with? I'm left with over an hour of just watching this a death march to its conclusion.
You're watching two men gotcha each other.
Yeah.
Well, I know that it seems like we have spent the last almost 45 minutes shitting on this movie. There is a lot to like in it.
There is.
As unsympathetic as their characters are, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale are great in their roles.
Fantastic.
So is there's not a weak link in the cast. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is just brilliant. I was reminded while watching it last night of how much I love the energy of Nolan's editing.
It was funny to me when you told me about the cast. It's like, when I saw David Bowie show up as Tesla, I was like, how do you stunt cast a movie like this?
Well, you throw Tesla in it, and then you cast David Bowie to be Tesla. But one of the things that I appreciate most about the movie is Nolan's use of foreshadowing throughout. And as Chris and I discussed, both good and bad, subtle and very unsubtle foreshadowing.
I likened it to, when he does it well, it's great in the movie, because when things connect, it's like, oh, that's okay, I see now.
Yeah.
And then there was other times where it's like, I just imagine him like an overexcited kid who's like, okay, this part is going to be so good. Okay, here's a little bit now, and then you're going to see how we get there, okay?
Well, it starts with, early in the movie, Cutter sends Angier and Borden to see a Chinese magician to figure out how he does a certain trick. And Borden figures it out, almost immediately, and Angier is really struggling with it. And when they're watching this old man walk out of the theater afterwards, he's hunched over. He looks sickly.
He's trembling and arthritic.
Yeah. But Borden tells Angier it's all an act. Whenever he's in public, that's what he's committed to, so that no one thinks that he is strong enough to pull off the trick, which requires him to hold a very heavy fishbowl between his legs while hunched over, and also maneuver it during the trick. Mm-hmm. Very early foreshadowing that this is the same kind of public lie that Borden is also living with his twin, and he is also so committed to the lie that he doesn't let it down even in private.
Nope.
At one point, we see them performing the crushed bird trick, where the audience thinks you crushed it, but then it reappears. Well, they're actually crushing a bird and then making one reappear. I'm sorry, then pulling out another bird. And so early on in the movie, one of them is killed. Is it Angier or Borden who says to the other bird, "Today you've been the lucky one"?
Borden.
Yeah, it's Borden.
Because Borden does the trick. That's how he meets Sarah, and
That's
Sarah
right.
has the nephew notices.
That's right. So Borden says to the bird that survived, "Today you're the lucky one." Mm-hmm. Well, by the end of the film, one of them is not the lucky one.
Right.
One of them is and gets to survive. The other gets hung. You're talking about the magic show where he meets Sarah. Mm-hmm. Sarah's nephew starts crying and over the death of the bird, and Borden is trying to reassure him, no, the bird is still alive. And the little boy says, "But what about his brother?"
Yep. And he goes, very observant.
Yeah.
And also, and Sarah is also a very big key to this, because she often notes when Borden either means it or doesn't mean it when he says he loves her.
Yes.
And she is like, you mean it today.
Yeah. And on some level, she either outright knew or she suspected that there was some kind of tomfuckery going on.
I don't think she 100% knew, because when they're in the shouting match toward the end of the movie, she's wanting him to just come clean with it. She knows something's up, but not exactly what. She wants him to come clean.
Yeah. I really appreciated his use of foreshadowing throughout the movie. But as you pointed out, also there's some very unsubtle foreshadowing, like the fact that the movie starts with the field of cloned hats.
Right. It's during Michael Caine's voiceover. They show the hats. So when you get to the point where Tesla puts his hat under the electricity, I immediately and nothing seemingly happens to the hat, and I go, it's a duplicator.
Mm-hmm. And that is the perfect segue, Chris. Thank you very much for our last discussion topic, which is, does the inclusion of science and cloning and teleportation ruin the premise of the movie, which is two magicians fucking each other over?
Not really. Well, at least not for me, because it seems like that theme runs parallel with Tesla and his struggles versus what they're struggling with. And also, it starts earlier than Tesla, because early on, Cutter and Angier invent that machine that makes the bird disappearing cage trick until Borden fucks it up. Something that they're able to do without killing a bird. Right.
Even that is still reliant on a trick. That is reliant on a wire up a sleeve.
Well, not necessarily a wire up a sleeve. There's like a whole back brace thing that has to be like jacked into position.
Mm-hmm. Stan, what do you think? Does the inclusion of science ruin the the illusion aspect of it?
I didn't think so, because there's, the whole idea of magic and science going hand in hand, and, through evolution as we know it, and innovation as we know it is like, what is magic now and what is actually science coming out. But my thing, what I liked about the Tesla inclusion was the introduction of the battle between Tesla and Edison, and then you having Edison's men coming after, and being in the same place as Angier's when he's trying to get to Tesla and the duplicator machine, or this machine that he thinks Borden has received from Tesla, and which Borden has no.
Oh no, it was just a trick to get him to fuck off to America.
Trick to fuck off to America, and but you get the Edison issue, and then we also get Andy Serkis, which Andy Serkis in anything for me
doing the best accent work,
the best, but he can be in anything, and he's going to raise the bar of that, or at least those scenes that he's in. But the idea that I liked. And again, this goes back to, what was in the book and what wasn't in the book, and that Christopher and his brother Jonathan put into the movie.
I mean, I'll never know. I'm not reading the book, so.
Yeah, same.
Right, and it's like how much of the Tesla-Edison rivalry was evident in the book, and so should have that been even increased, or should have been not included at all. But I really enjoyed. I think what
was there was enough, because it just highlighted the same parallel between.
Yes, exactly.
The magicians.
Because they were very obsessive in their rivalry.
Oh yeah,
together. So the Edison and Tesla rivalry was very about obsession, and Edison wins that one. And so it's like the idea that that's correlating with the Angiers and Borden obsessions with each other, and who wins that one. And I don't think either of them win in the sense.
No one actually wins in this story.
Fallon
comes the closest
and is able to,
in the sense that he is able to just go off and hopefully raise his daughter and not fuck around with this again.
Yes.
Yeah, but even then, like, he murdered a man and his wife is dead.
Yes. I think. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, this has always been my biggest issue with the movie. The other plot points aside, like the unsympathetic protagonist aside, at its core, this is a movie. Well, okay. At its core, this is a movie about two men continuing to fuck each other over. It's the cycle of revenge and obsession and the effect that it has on a person. But once you add the element of magic to it, it's two magicians who are locked in a cycle of revenge, two illusionists. And everything they do is always seeking the next level of perfection in their craft. And however it is that works for them, for Angier, it was employing a double. For Borden, it was employing his twin. But it's always still in the same realm of illusion. As soon as Angier included science into this, it no longer became about illusion. Angier stopped being a magician at that point, and the story stopped being about the illusions. It became about science fiction, which is not present in any of the rest of the movie.
I think what probably both the book and the Nolans were trying to push was a play on that clever phrasing of any sufficiently involved technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
It seems to be that kind of thing.
And also it showed it.
They all but say it.
Showed the level of obsession and psychopathology that Angier's has reached. Because even though we may not like Borden, he never went for that ultimate thing of,
because he was the true illusionist.
He was the true illusionist, and it's like you get somehow Angiers discovers this magical thing that's really, really magical. It's like a bunch of electrons, able to teleport something or duplicate something, and so he had an actual machine that he thought was what Borden had, and it's like, but he has reached this pinnacle of obsession that will prove to be what drives him off the edge completely.
And I think Sarah's Alfred recognized that, and that's why he said, we're not going to mess with this anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also always annoyed me that the movie supposes that Nikola Tesla in the 1800s...
Well, it was the early 1900s.
Early 1900s, fine.
Well, yeah, it's around that time.
Invented a cloning teleportation machine with limited resources, and no one since then was ever able to recreate that technology.
It was locked away in a magician's vault.
Sure it was, but Nikola Tesla was not like the last of his kind.
No, and he's also a man who in real life tried to actually and publicly invent a death ray and couldn't.
And God bless him, I wish he had. Like, how much easier would life be now if we had death rays?
But that's also one of the things about touching on the rivalry between Edison and Tesla is that, for all intents and purposes, he might have the capability of creating a death ray, but the stuff that he did that ended up being that could have been used for stuff, he turned away from. Where Edison didn't really have a problem, instigating the stuff that he took.
All I'm going to say is introducing that buried the lead, because this is now a reality where that kind of thing can happen.
Exactly.
I mean, I want to see the Prestige.
Who cares about magicians now?
Yeah, the Prestige too. Somebody discovered
laser blasters everywhere.
Yeah, somebody discovered Tesla's cloning teleportation machine,
and now the
world has
Wars
gone crazy. Yeah, like there are just endless doubles. Like the United States military just picks the most perfectly physically fit people in the world and just endlessly clones them, and now we have an army.
Because that's Andy Serkis's reasons for being, his character's reasons for it, because he's the guy that basically, because Tesla's going off on his stuff, and creating all his stuff, but he doesn't really have a buffer to say, oh, this has gone too far, where that's why he has Andy Serkis's character.
Well, Serkis, if that's supposed to be his job, Allie's character, I'm sorry, Serkis's character, Allie, fails horribly at that job because he was going to let Tesla zap, and he did let Tesla zap his cat and clone it with electricity.
Yes, he did. But then he realized that, oh shit, Edison's boys are here. It's like, maybe we have gone too far.
That just reminded me that makes Angier's decision to shoot his duplicate even worse because he knows what was going to happen if he used that machine.
Of course he does. That's why he had a loaded gun sitting next to him.
That's why I side with, if I side with any of them, it's going to be the Borden.
The Borden.
The Borden.
The Bordens, the twins.
They are the Borden.
Because
I side with none of them.
Angier's reaches
in
a
their
point
souls.
that is irredeemable.
I side with Olivia. Smartest character in the movie. Yes. She got out at the right time before either one of them got her killed.
And Cutter, I assume, literally cut ties with Borden after he takes his daughter away. It's just like, done with that.
And I really believe that we are purposely guided in that way, that we identify with Olivia and that we identify with the Cutter more, and or sympathize, maybe not identify, but sympathize with them, and that we go and then so it allows us to become more spectators to the sport of these guys fucking each other over. I think we're purposely driven that way.
All right. Well, I feel like that ramps up our discussion about The Prestige. Coming up next week, if we all have coordinating schedules to sit down and do it, the WWE has SummerSlam coming up.
I don't know if it's happening.
It'll happen eventually.
SummerSlam's happening.
SummerSlam's definitely happening. When we're going to record that episode of This Is a Work, I don't know. And my lovely wife, Katie, is here in the room with us. Hun, we really need to do more teeny talks, don't we?
Yeah, that sounds like a really lofty commitment.
It really does. Maybe there'll be more teeny talks coming. And so the next month, our Nolan discussion is going to continue with all three Dark Knight films. 2005's Batman Begins, 2008's The Dark Knight, and 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. So... until then, Stan, if people want to reach out to you online, where can they do that at? Okay, Thank you, Stan. Chris, if people want to find you online or reach out to you, where can they do that at?
They can go to Stan and ask him.
Yep.
It is Chris the OK on Twitter.
All right, and
you can find me there too.
You can.
Oh yeah, I speak for Stan. Yeah, just send anything my way. I'll tell you what he thinks.
That's probably, he's better off letting you speak for him.
It's true.
All right, I got to change up my end of episode.
I'm the older one.
I got to change up my end of episode speech here. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. But you can't search for Long Walk Productions or Long Walk Podcasts or me on Facebook because fuck Facebook. To see more of our original works or hear episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. So thank you very much for listening. Hold on, my voice is going out.
Oh no, Zuckerberg's launching his attack.
Yeah, Zuckerberg has sucked me. Well, let me try to do that outro all over again. My voice is super scratchy now. God, the 5G chip that was in the vaccine is getting me. Let me try that again.
Get the fucking vaccine.
The reception at our house has never been better.
Yeah. All right. I got to change up my outro tonight. If you'd like to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us on Long at Line Walk. Take 3.
You're going to have to wait a second.
I know.
I'm good.
Okay. So this is, listeners, this is my attempt number 3 at an outro. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. At the moment, all of our Facebook links are disabled, perhaps permanently, maybe only temporarily, who knows. If you want to see more of our original content or hear episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoyed this show or any of the shows on this network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
Peace out.
Are you listening closely?